Hello and welcome to WealthWatch TV. I'm Graham Rowan, a renegade investor cutting through the crap to tell you what's really going on in the world of wealth creation and wealth protection. In this episode of Investment University, I want to touch on a strange phenomenon. Why are people who want to achieve success in any given field so slow to study others who've gone before them? A classic example of this is the Sunday Times Rich List, now celebrating its 25th anniversary. For most people, there's a kind of voyeurism about studying the list. We're just nosy to learn who's got the most money, who's moving up the wealth charts, who's on the way down. For others, there's a reinforcement of their own self-limiting beliefs that they are somehow different from me. They've had advantages I'll never have, or they got lucky. A simmering jealousy that's reinforced by much of the soak the rich rhetoric coming from politicians and the media. That's not why or how I read the Rich List. And from now on, I hope it won't be the way you look at it. What it really offers is a treasure trove of insights into 1,000 examples of people who've already achieved financial independence. I study their profiles looking for trends, common behaviors that underpin their success, challenges they've had to overcome, the vehicles they use to create wealth, and just as important, the steps they've taken to preserve wealth. Take Alan Sugar, for example. We all know he made his money from consumer electronics with Amstrad, but today there's hardly a trading entity in his £860 million portfolio. That's why they've had to make a long overdue change to The Apprentice TV show. Its format always struck me as fundamentally flawed. Why would somebody with the right stuff to be an entrepreneur want to compete for a job? There was even a high-profile court case recently by a woman who won the series, complaining that she'd been employed as a highly paid lackey with no substantive role to get her teeth into. Now, Sugar invests $250,000 into the winner's own business, a far more relevant and helpful prize. Almost all of his wealth has been transferred into property, and that in itself is a useful learning point and a theme among many of the super successful. Create your wealth by owning your own business. Realize your wealth by selling your business. Secure your long-term wealth by investing in assets that will both hold their value and generate income for the long term. If you've been part of the WealthWatch community for any length of time, you'll know that a cornerstone of my strategy is acquiring income-generating assets both within and outside of my pension. So let's have a closer look at this year's Rich List to see what we can learn. In a country that seems less and less bothered about aspiring to success, it's gratifying to see that 77% of the top 1,000 are self-made millionaires and billionaires. Only 23% inherited their wealth, and just 4 are lottery winners, so luck is almost irrelevant. Fully 2/3 of those 77% come from 3 sectors: finance, property, and industry. Digging below the famous names like Lakshmi Mittal and Roman Abramovich, I'm more interested in the homegrown success stories like Nick Robertson, a 45-year-old founder of the internet clothing retailer ASOS, who saw his fortune rise by $123 million to $278 million at a time when things have never been more challenging on the high street. Did you think engineering was dead in this country? Former Rolls-Royce engineer John Deere saw record results at his Renishaw company lift his wealth by $90 million to $270 million. And how about this for inspiration? Sukhpal Singh Ahluwalia was turfed out of Uganda by Idi Amin in the 1970s. He borrowed $5,000 to set up Euro car parts when he was 18. At 52, he sold the business for a slight profit at £285 million. And he's obviously managing his investments with similar skills, as he's added $75 million to his net worth in the last 12 months. I remember being in the 6th form at school when an Asian lad joined my class whose family had received the Amin handshake. They left with the clothes they stood up in and £50 in cash. Before that year was out, his father had bought his first corner shop and was on the way to establishing a new family fortune to replace the one that had been confiscated by the fat comptroller. Well, how about 54-year-old Surinder Arora? Back in the 1970s, he worked as a waiter at the Renaissance London Hotel at Heathrow. Last year, he bought it. He got started by developing houses near Heathrow into bed and breakfasts. Eventually, he made enough to buy a small hotel and did a deal with BA to accommodate their aircrew. His shiny new Terminal 5 hotel is part of the $302 million in assets held by his company, Aurora Holdings. The appropriately named Kevin Cash is another to demonstrate the ability to move between sectors as his wealth increases. The 49-year-old Brummie began by selling frozen foods, but made his fortune as a property developer in London. He then used the profits from property to become an early-stage investor in a number of internet companies. He's now worth a cool $500 million, with interests that include student properties, property in South Africa, and an Oxfordshire estate. One of the biggest trends to emerge in the last couple of years is the money being made in online gaming. Needless to say, it's not the punters that are coining it in. It's the digital bookies and the people behind them. There are no fewer than 10 online bookies on the rich list, all of them in the top 10%. Peter Coates and his family head the list with a $925 million fortune from Bet365, while Fred and Peter Dunn are not far behind with $850 million from the eponymous Betfred. These 10 families account for $5 billion of new wealth created in a sector that barely existed 5 years ago. There was a panic a couple of years ago when America banned all internet gaming and share prices in these companies tanked. The brave investors who saw that as a temporary setback filled their boots at rock-bottom prices and have been massively rewarded. I could go on and on, but hopefully you've gleaned something of the way I treat the rich list as a valuable resource that I use to inform my investing, to look for business opportunities and inspirational stories of how ordinary folks can make it big if they choose the right business and stick at it regardless of the stuff that life throws at you. I urge you to make it an annual part of your financial education and your wealth planning. With hundreds of examples to learn from, there can be few more valuable resources that you can buy for £2. And that nice Mr. Murdoch even throws in a free Sunday newspaper as part of the deal. Until next time, thanks for watching and be careful out there.